I've decided to keep a journal.
Hola a todos y bienvenidos al podcast y para mí, a podcast about film, culture, politics, and Paul Schrader, where we watch every film written and or directed by American filmmaker Paul Schrader and explore how they speak to their moment in this one. Show's hosted by two guys. I'm uno de los chicos y me llamo Jake Serwin.
Yo soy también uno de los chavos. Me llamo Ian Ryan. And Jake looks me right in the eyes as he's one of the chicos.
Sort of trying to sap some linguistic power.
I'm not sure what he was sapping, but he sapped me good.
I sapped you good. Yeah. If you've noticed a powerful drop in audio quality, that's because we are currently in Mexico.
Yep. Where sound doesn't work.
Los dos boys, not well, where we're in a Airbnb, uniquely, sonically, acoustically, ill-equipped for podcasting purposes. This is one of the bounciest rooms I've ever been in.
It's the gigantic metal sewer tube from The Fugitive. That's where we're recording, with complete with running water at our feet.
And just like in that film, I don't care. Remember from the GIF?
Yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones. So we should tell the folks what's going on. I'm here in Oaxaca. I'm visiting Ian in his home city of Oaxaca.
That's right.
But also his home state of Oaxaca.
Yep. I'm so happy to have my friend here. Extremely exciting. I keep looking at my computer because I'm used to looking at computer.
Sure. I'm not going to, me and eye contact.
Yeah.
Sometimes at
odds.
odds.
This is strange. This is cool.
It's so nice. We've recorded
nice.
episodes in person
we
before.
Have, but I forgot how.
Is this this isn't your home.
Nope.
So
it's not my home. I don't live at an Airbnb, to be clear.
No. This episode is going to be really heavy on, it's going to be a big lore dump.
Big time.
So many questions have been answered for me.
I did suspect that Jake was going to use this as an opportunity to shed some light on aspects of my life that I hadn't noticed. That's one of the great things about having a friend, is that they help shed light, but sometimes it's too much light.
That's what James Taylor told us.
Having
a friend?
Oh, okay.
Thank you for being a friend. I'm going to shed too much light. And Ian's shedding a lot of skin flakes. Now,
the movie is There Are No Saints.
Yeah, no one is going to want that. So what this is predominantly, this is going to be the Mexico episode.
Yeah.
We're coming to you live from the Mike Milo Memorial Studios.
That's exactly right. To quote Paul Schrader, I wanted to make a Latin film, and now Jake wanted to make a Latin podcast, so he came down here. That's what he did. He said that to me.
I did. I said that to you?
Yeah.
Do you want to listen to Morrissey? I really feel like listening to Morrissey.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's not racist if I say it's something to do with the location, right?
Sure.
Anyone here would want that?
It still might be. I think also it's interesting to find out, and I'm curious how much of this has been your experience while you're down here. Which things you may have realized you associate with Chicano people or people of Latin heritage in the United States.
Yeah, we've learned a lot about. Well, I don't know. We should structure this somehow.
Great.
A quick recap of how I got here. I went to the airport. I got on a plane. I don't know.
Yeah, it was late. He got on a late plane to show his friendship to me.
Yeah. Oh, real quick. Patreon.com/podcasting for me.
That's right.
We have Patreon episodes. We have more of this. It's even more like this.
Yeah.
This was kind of a last minute. I was thinking about doing this for a long time, and then I waited too long to check for the ticket prices, and they were too expensive. And then I checked them again. I kind of juked the airlines.
Yeah, almost unheard of. This maneuver.
I looked away from them, and they lowered their prices. Yeah. And then I thought, now is the time to strike. I was also looking at a different airline, so I took Viva Aerobus.
Yeah, kind of the Frontier. I actually think they may be the Frontier partner in Mexico because they're effectively the same type of airline.
This is an airline that it leaves out of LAX. The flight leaves at 12:20 a.m. to arrive in Mexico City. Now I'm no foreigner to no foreigner to taking an overnight flight to another country. However, usually because that flight is like 9 hours.
Right.
This is a 3 hour and 50-minute flight beginning at 12:20 a.m.
This is closer than New York, probably, to you.
It's like flying to Chicago. It's like taking a red eye to Chicago. Like, you're not done with the red eye. So getting into Mexico City at like 5 in the morning, that Mexico City time. And then I have like 6 hours in the Mexico City airport before I take a 50-minute flight to Oaxaca.
Yeah, he did a lot of brave watching of the bags and also watching television. What else did you do with your time?
I mostly watched you guys. I noted this.
Politely omitting this part.
Well, no, it's not the part that you think so. No, I did. There were some ladies exercising on the beach who were on TV for what seemed like 5 hours.
I think you were probably sleepy.
Check out Fox Fit.
Yeah, Fox Feet.
On the Fox Deportes channel. Yep. No, so this was I noted that as violent and unruly and terrifying as the guy who cleaned the Airbnb put so much oil on the wood, I keep touching it. Ugh. As terrifying as U.S. news media makes Mexico look, Mexican news media makes Mexico look like the Purge.
Yeah, this is correct. And this is why there are still so many conservative parents, just like in the United States, conservative parents in Mexico who believe basically at any moment their home is going to be broken into.
A guy with a beer belly pushing out his like pale blue polo shirt and a motorcycle helmet on will charge into the mobile phone store where you work and point a gun at you and then take the money out of the register, which, look, sounds scary, but so?
Yeah. I mean, I know people personally who have been mugged, and I know of people who have been killed, like acquaintances of acquaintances who have been killed. But that's, I mean, if you were to poll your college graduating class and say, like, does anybody know somebody who's been killed?
Like, are we in like a big gondola?
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
I'm polling them.
And you're sounding the depth of the river as you
I'm
go.
Sounding? No, I am back in college.
I'm just saying that everybody can find somebody to whom violence has happened. Unfortunately, regrettably.
Puccini as I sound myself. Didn't think we'd get to sounding this early in the episode. So Mexico tried to scare me, but
he hung around long enough. Yeah. And then what happened?
I took the airplane to. Now this is something that happens to me. I get a little nervous on airplanes, and so I have developed a practice where I begin to meditation in the airplane.
Beautiful. Okay.
Basically as soon as I sit down, so that I have developed I've calmed myself as much as I can by the time the plane starts taking off, so that I establish a sort of, oh, this is happening kind of emotional tenor.
Right.
And my eyes are closed during this. However, sometimes when my eyes are closed and I'm meditating, I manage to, in my mind, interpret the sensations of the takeoff as basically a crash that's going to kill me. So, like, I had convinced myself.
Not successful.
No. Sometimes it is. But I convinced myself that the plane taking off from Oaxaca was basically bouncing on the airstrip. Okay. Or sorry, taking off from Mexico City.
The engines had failed, but the bounce mechanism was still working.
It felt like we couldn't get lift.
Wow. What an elaborate... The power of catastrophizing and anxiety is endlessly amazing to me.
My fly zone done right now. I just noticed.
I can't see it because of the table.
Yeah, then we get to Mexico. We've been in Mexico. This is my first time in Mexico. I've never been here.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I kind of skipped over the
normal
the abundantly
Southern California introductions.
Accessible part.
Yeah.
I get here to Oaxaca. Airport's nice. It's a nice little airport, but it's like, it's got real, it feels like a hotel, kind of. Like it's...
Oh, sure. Yeah. Feels like an old mid-range Marriott or something.
It also reminded me a little bit of like Union Station in LA. Like it's got a kind of the white stucco of it all.
Yeah, except Union Station in Los Angeles is much bigger than the Oaxaca airport. Yeah. It's a very small airport. It's got island time size airport.
Yeah, it does. And we took a cab here to...
He took a shared...
Calle de Oaxaca.
I'm hoping we bleep this part out because Jake said my real address.
No, I'll bleep it out. It's
cool.
Between Crespo and...
That's true. You can leave in one of those streets. How about that?
We've already said Crespo, so I'll leave in Crespo.
All right.
And you can... Basically, there's a blue building across the street. Yep. It's like dark blue. Or it's sort of a royal blue. Okay.
But I wanted to give Jake credit. He took a shared shuttle because he's a man of the people.
I am a man of the people.
Yeah.
I am un hombre de la gente.
That's right.
And viva la raza, we like to say here on the show.
I don't think we do.
Is that bad to say?
I don't know. Would you go around saying like black and proud or something? I don't know.
Oh. Yeah. No, but I would say that I like approve of black power.
Yeah, but would you just say black power? Mm-hmm. All right.
Maybe.
Okay.
No, I would probably say that like I support black power movements.
Yeah. So he supports La Raza movements. How about that?
Yes. I had a few issues with movements here. We'll get to that in a second. So
I figured we would.
So I get to Ian's home. I've now basically not slept.
Yeah.
And have a pretty hallucinatory stroll through Oaxaca. Beautiful city.
Thank you so much.
It's really good.
Taking credit. Yeah.
I mean, every time I leave the country, I think, well, this one's better. I think that's true of anywhere I've been.
Yep. Did it make you think about the piss yellow danger scenes of so many films that you've seen?
And now, look, I have not been to like the borderlands, which I imagine they may contain more human tragedy as a direct result of U.S. border policy and like U.S. drug policy.
Yep.
So that's all. I'm sure that's all there.
Mm-hmm.
Or some of it is there. However, having flown over all that here to beautiful southern Mexico, it is completely insane that people talk about this as like a dangerous place to be avoided and barricaded against at all costs. Because Oaxaca is like so much better than Los Angeles, except it includes the good parts of Los Angeles, which are predominantly Mexican people and culture and food.
Yeah, as you pointed out, this looks like what the cool parts of Los Angeles are often trying to look like.
Yeah.
So it simply cannot be that scary.
It looks like, you know, the beautiful parts of Europe that people like to take Instagram photos of.
Right.
But it's a lot cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of like cool murals. And then what graffiti there is like saying like abortion rights now and free Palestine and like fuck the cops.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good city. If you are white, you should not move here.
Do not come here.
I'm begging you not to move here, and I embrace the hypocrisy of that statement. We're going to talk about white guys in Mexico in this episode.
Do you think it's going to come up?
Yeah. At least one Colonel Kurt style man.
Giving away my basically one observation that a bunch of other people did. Ian is holding the microphone so weird. He's holding it like he is in prayer. I'm going to take a photo. Hold on.
All right. I've been trapped into maintaining this position, although I would normally abort it before he could get the photo. I'm doing this not out of...
It's the butcher, the guy who goes around podcasting?
Yeah. Jake has observed that everything I do is strange, and my hands
especially with his hands and his wrists.
Yeah.
Now, some Ian lore.
Okay.
I have spent so many hours.
I mean, we lived together for at least a year.
It's Ian's home lore.
Yeah. Okay.
Not Ian lore.
Mm-hmm.
I had most of the Ian lore down.
Yep.
I have just had I've spent so many hours looking at basically the same angle of your home here.
Mm-hmm.
But things will happen that are difficult for me to understand spatially, especially the directions in which you look to speak to your wonderful esposa, who has been extremely generous with her time and home and
very kind of you to say,
and Spanish education to me, because I'm trying to speak a little Spanish. I'm doing it really badly, but he's
doing a wonderful job trying.
Thank you.
We love.
And she tiene mucha paciencia.
Very good.
She has a lot of patience para mí.
Mm-hmm.
She's and she, I believe, teaches Spanish to little tiny children professionally. Yeah. So perfect.
Yes. But you are saying that you've begun to understand the MC Escher-like descriptions I give
cats will appear from seemingly every direction. This guy's got a lot of cats. I've met all the cats now.
Uh-huh.
I can tell them apart because I've had little interactions with them.
He sure has. They've embraced both Jake and his podcast girlfriend
So
immediately.
Much, literally, physically. Yeah. So I've been nipped affectionately, and the cats did it too. Yep. Okay, so imagine, listener, a villa-style home that is sort of a square, rooms arranged in a square with a courtyard in the center.
Yes.
But then there is also a building within the courtyard, I think. So, like, imagine basically like concentric squares, like the sort of like
you've immediately lost.
Imagine. Okay, take a square with a hole in it, like a square that's a big wide outline. And do another one that's smaller than that fits inside. So now you have basically a hallway that is a square. Now cover like the corner, one corner of that hallway, and wall it in and rent it to Ian Ryan.
That is, everything he said is true, but I wonder how visualizable
basically
this
what
is.
I'm saying is the result of this is that every room of Ian's home is on one side of it.
That's immediately not true. There's a studio that's on the opposite side.
Okay. Almost all the rooms are on one side of a hallway, and they all have windows looking into the hallway.
That's correct.
And there are the home is, to my understanding, always open to the elements to an extent because of a lack of glazed windows.
That's true. Or windows of any kind in some parts of the home.
It's one of the worst places to podcast I can ever imagine.
And yet
he's doing a great job.
I'm doing a fine job.
Yeah.
But Jake is right in saying that it looks like my home, all the rooms in my home were individual rooms in a hallway that was an outdoor hallway. They were all classrooms in a California elementary school.
It brought me back to like the first couple days of middle school Latin class where we were learning about the Roman villa.
Ah, yes.
And that served me fairly well in trying to remember my college Spanish because there were some words borrowed.
Yeah.
So I have also learned, this was huge for me, I've ascertained the sources of a number of the extraordinary booming sounds that I edit out of the podcast.
We make great efforts to edit out of the podcast.
We both do. Yeah. Yes, Ian does it too.
Sometimes they are over my words and it's impossible.
Sometimes you're over your words. Sometimes there's a dog over your words. I met the dog. The dog is so cute. His name is Onyx. Like the rock, not like the Pokemon.
Yeah.
He came running out, barking at us, and then he tripped and ate shit. And then the dog became visibly ashamed and stopped
chastened. Yeah.
It was so sad. I've never wanted a dog to go back to barking at me.
He licked where he got scratched, and he looked at Jake to see if he had seen what happened.
I did.
Basically. Yeah.
This dog looks like Coco's friend.
Yeah.
He's a very Mexican-looking dog. We've seen a number of dogs here, and they're all lovely and beautiful, and most of them don't look like... What is the name of the Mexican breed?
Cholo Esquinkles.
Yeah.
Yep.
We just talked about dog breeds on our Dog Eat Dog episode.
We did. A dog.
Okay, so there's two types of boom. Hopefully the listener doesn't know what I'm talking about.
That's a dream, that this is the first they've heard of this.
There's two booms. There's two boom sources. And I think they kind of get blended in the audio because we do the noise cancellation stuff and we try to reduce noises. And so when they do make it through all of these technological gates that we put up, I think they sound fairly similar. So there's one of them is the famous firework.
Yep.
There are lots of fireworks going on here.
Sure.
All the time.
I tried to warn them. I tried to tell them.
Yeah. I've gotten used to it.
Okay.
I've been scared.
Yeah. That's the two possible reactions you can have.
But
both
then
acceptable.
I get used to it.
Yeah.
So these are often, because as I mentioned, it's essentially like there's this open window. Like every window in a house is open all the time. If there's a firework, you're going to hear it. The firework is basically in your home. And your home is made out of like cement.
Sure.
With bouncy audio.
Yeah.
And then the other is booming noise. Ian he lives in a home where the front door is a metal door from the film 10 Cloverfield Lane. So anytime anyone comes or goes, it is a big metallic bang.
Yeah.
So that's weird.
Yeah.
Do you think that's weird?
They're both a little weird. I mean, this type of door is not uncommon to the outer gate of a Mexican home. Even an apartment door, it could be this type of door. It's not that crazy.
To an American home as well.
Yeah.
It's just weird to be your front door. Front doors are not typically metal.
Sure. Yeah.
In homes, which again leads me to believe that this is a sort of an improvised and perhaps non-legal. I'm not going to say illegal, but I'm going to say non-legal, extra legal residence.
Right. Yeah. But I also don't want pity because I do think that this is quite a fine place to live in my estimation. It's
absolutely a fine place to live. The toilet is so small. And because of the
acoustics,
because of the generally kind of open ceiling, like the rooms don't extend to the ceiling in some cases. I have been afraid to use the bathroom to its fullest.
Now, if Jake were doing this discussion for an audience of the 4 people who have stayed in my home, this would be killing. This is the most common experience you can have in my home, is becoming very self-conscious about the sound of your bowel movements.
Yeah, I mean, I've been self-conscious about the sound of my urine stream as well.
What's so bad about it? What are you afraid of?
It's all Paul Schrader style shame, Judeo-Christian shame.
Right.
I don't even know how I absorbed because I didn't go to church.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all just, I'm ashamed of my, as Ian called them, jugos naturales. There's a lot of places selling natural juices around here. Abundant fruit.
Yeah.
Wonderful fruit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm surprised I haven't heard any BM sounds in the edit as well. To be fair, I didn't hear anyone using the toilet.
Yeah.
I don't think I even heard it flush.
That's right.
But when you're in there, it's like being in. It's like the card counter. It's like Abu Ghraib. It feels like the Abu Ghraib scenes from the card counter.
So happy to have invited. I was made fun of for not having invited him early.
Letting me stay. Thank you so much for letting me stay.
All of my fears about inviting him to my home have been confirmed, and thus I have no regrets about not extending the invitation.
No.
I can't say earlier because I didn't extend the invitation ever, which is my way. You were just smart. You know me well enough to just say, "Hey, can we come to your house?"
Well, and I also we did a classic, the dance of the 2 cuckolds, where we're retreating away from each other constantly. Where I was like,
I'm imagining it,
trying not to say that I wanted to stay at a hotel because I didn't think your place was nice enough to stay in. But I also didn't want to impose.
And here's the beauty of this dance. I didn't know which one he really wanted, so I didn't know how to confirm his desires.
I did not either. I mean, well, to be clear,
I tried to split the difference, and it feels like you were more mad at me.
Well, I hurt my foot here almost as soon as we came into the Airbnb, so I'll explain that. This is actually the second body wash container that I have dropped to the floor of a shower and broken.
It's true.
I guess I got wild elbows in the shower. I should have hooped.
Throwing both. Yeah, that's right.
Let's get to the 2 questions. Let's take a little break from the
let's get
recap.
to the actual for the fans. Let's keep it on structure, on pace.
Yeah. On peso, the famous currency.
Yeah.
So we do something on the show called the 2 questions. This is a segment where we ask each other 2 questions to get to know one another and our guest. And our guest this week is, of course, the beautiful people, culture, and natural environment of Mexico.
It's just the 3rd character on the program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Miranda. Yeah. Means looking, sort of.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Ian, do you have 2 questions for me today?
Sure. I figured we would keep them relevant to the stuff you want to talk about. Stuff I think we both want to talk about.
Sure.
What was the most surprising thing that you've encountered in the last 48 hours?
Just the incredible screen presence of Eddie Murphy. Not the first 48 hours. The last, that's...
The unannounced
What is it called? 48 more hours? No, 48
hours late.
48
48 hours. Yes.
Yep. I've seen it. It's
me too.
Nothing.
Big step down.
Did we watch it together?
We might have.
Big step down. Saw some of those at Monte Alban.
He did.
The most surprising thing that I have encountered is probably I posted this on the Podcasty For Me Instagram page. Probably a Mac repair store with a sign that has the Apple logo, and then underneath it in the Apple font, It says Adonai.
Now, this
One of
is
the
very
names
funny.
of God.
Yeah, I encountered this first, obviously, when I moved here, and I thought it was extremely funny. Took many pictures of it, and then I forgot that it was weird. So then I kind of got to re-encounter it with you, where I remember.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that
Yeah.
fun? That's a fun thing about having someone come to visit.
Yep, it's very fun. It's so unofficial looking, and yet it does have the famous white apple.
Yeah, I mean, imagine. I think it's silver.
Okay,
but silver can appear white under certain conditions. I mean, all Mac repair places look extremely janky and untrustworthy, but then this one hits you with the big old Hashem, and you're like, wait a second, do I trust this?
It's got some spectacle about it because it's not in the middle of a Los Angeles strip mall. It's on the corner of a colonial block of buildings in a city that's 500 years old.
Right. The sign is adorning essentially like, imagine the beginning of the French Connection, where those guys are getting chased through Marseille. Yeah. It's like, imagine if there was the Apple logo and then the word Adonai. No, right. I mean, that's kind of a joke answer. I think the real most surprising thing is that within, 2 hours of being here, you were feeding me chapulinas. You were feeding me.
I was feeding you chapulinas. It's true.
I ate bugs.
Yeah. Yep.
This is what
you can't make a big deal of it because it's not a big deal.
Are trying to force us to do, and you know what?
Yeah,
bring it on. Pretty good, salty.
That's right. This is the part of Snowpiercer that I saw it and I said, not that crazy.
No, that part. Well, they're grinding it up. You're losing all that texture.
It's true. Yeah, one of the good parts about the.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is well trod Andrew Zimmern territory, but bugs are parts of the diets of people all over the world and have been for a long time, and they're a really good source of protein, and they're abundant and they grow quickly. It's like
far more sustainable than any other thing approaching meat, basically on the planet Earth.
Pretty good. Like, yeah, there's very little downside except if you look at them too close, you might get a little freaked out, and also you can get legs in your teeth. Yeah, but you can get pieces of flesh in your teeth, and that freaks me out thinking about
flesh. Yeah.
There is so much room temperature uncovered chicken meat being sold here. Yeah. That's another thing that surprised me a lot is I don't know what they've done to them. They seem to have like iodinized them or something. It looks like when you get iodine put on your arm before they put a needle in you, like the chickens are all yellowed.
Yeah, this is something that happens that I think if you go to any part of the world where they're serving chicken with the skin on, or they have chicken with the skin on, this is the color that it takes on. But surprising to the eyes of somebody who has only observed chicken as a packaged, often frozen element.
And I also try not to look at, like, I don't shop for meat because I don't eat it.
Right. Yep.
So, and I try to avert my eyes, but there's a lot of the chicken around. Yeah. We also saw some cats eating chicken heads. They were being tossed chicken heads by a nice man, and the cats are just going, because you can't really bite into the chicken head.
Right. But this is the beauty of unabstracted consumption, which is one of the things that I love about not living in the United States, is that we're still doing a lot of the same bad stuff here, but you have to think about it a little bit more because you can see what the bad stuff came from, or the damage you're doing.
Yeah, I've appreciated that as well. There's less abstraction. What's been one of the most surprising things about my visit here?
Interesting question.
Last 48 hours.
I think one of the most surprising things is the number of times that Jake has goosed me while we're doing something, because that's a literal surprise. We've been viewing the beautiful vista of a ruin or a presentation by a man telling us about the endemic plants of Mexico. And I've been stabbed with my own keys in a way that makes me want to cry out.
I want to make sure he's still paying attention to me, even if he's looking at something else.
Yep, that's exactly right.
That has surprised you. I've noticed that as well, that was surprising to you. That's part of the
and then I've also been not surprised, but I've been delighted to see your easygoing embracing of all the parts of my lifestyle.
Thank you for saying this. We've also, I think, we're pretty sure we got to the bottom of Ian's extraordinary weakness and frailty. You've noticed on the show, I assume that Ian is constantly getting hurt and sick. And we were talking about how he like wants to get an immune panel.
Yep.
And like the doctor tested him for AIDS because he's just like weak to a point that he should not be. And I think we just figured out that he doesn't get enough sleep and hasn't given himself a weekend in like years. Yeah, he is simply overtired.
I'm a light sleeper. I'm up and about when I shouldn't be. This is true. Yeah. And maybe it's time for me to have this streak broken, to do something, to make a change. If anybody has an enormous amount of money that they could give me to help ease this process.
Patreon.com/podcast.
That would be great.
Use offer code Ian.
Yeah.
To give us more money than you.
Right.
I don't know. Have I said it so that you can pay more if you want?
Don't know.
I'm going to check on that.
Could be good.
I'm going to check on
think
that.
About.
Well, thank you for the question. My 2 question to you is, are you mad at me for coming here? No. No, come on. I wasn't. I didn't mean it.
All right. Good.
My 2 question to you is, did you ever watch Narcos?
Yeah, I did watch Narcos.
How much of it? And do you regret it? And do you think most people here have seen it?
I think a fair amount of people here have seen it. I think it hits different, obviously, because it is hitting as a clear, stylized fantasy version of the country. Whereas I think in the United States, they're watching it and thinking, whoa,
the
scary.
Documentary.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, but I mean, narcocultura, we will talk about, is a popular thing to consume here, the same way that whatever The Godfather is in the States.
Yeah. It's maybe not identical to The Godfather because The Godfather has some popularity with the people represented on the screen, but also I think appeals to dads and to cinema critics and things like this. Where I think things like narcocorridos and narcoculture, it does have adult
narco-cinema
fans. Yeah, but
apparently
I think
there's been like I've learned that there have been filmed adaptations of more popular narco corridos.
That's true.
Like besides Convoy, can you think of a song that was turned into a movie in the US?
Does it count? What is the name of the 50 Cent movie?
Oh, Get Rich or Die Trying.
But it's not a song made into a movie, but it kind of is.
Yeah. Halloween 3. No. Come on.
Kind of.
Get over
also. I think, but the difference is that those things are mostly popular with people, young men and women from 14 to 30 maximum.
Narco stuff?
Yeah. And I don't know. Not everybody. There's adult people into it, true adults. But I don't know that that's true of The Godfather or of... I guess I don't know what the equivalent would be.
Well, but in the 70s, like in 1972, would we be saying that The Godfather was for older people?
Perhaps.
And what about things like Top Boy?
Yeah, I was also thinking
about drug guys? I don't know anything about Power. Never seen Power.
I was thinking about Top Boy, and I don't know enough about British culture to weigh in on this. But yeah,
I assume that Guy Ritchie movies were popular with 20-somethings in the 90s and are now popular with those same people who are just 40.
Yeah, that's true. But I guess the difference to me is that also some of the people it's appealing to are young and wish they could become rich, and they're economically oppressed, and they are seeking an art style that gives them hope about their future, even if it's not the best
and also
path forward.
Offers a fantasy of revenge against the people oppressing them with the guise of legality.
And the people oppressing them and a confirmation of their masculinity, of their ability to attract women. All these things are part of this culture.
I've never seen it.
Great.
Should I watch it?
I think it's fine.
Thinking about watching it because
my conclusion. I don't live in Colombia. I don't know that much about Colombia, but
you live in Narcos, Mexico.
I do. I live in Narcos, Mexico. That's right. I live in the spin-off country, and I think it's fine. I think
it's more of a refocus, is my understanding. Is it because a lot of the Narcos Mexico cast is in the original Narcos?
But that's a Fraser Crane.
Is
it not?
You saw some of those when you were in China.
Did. Yeah.
Check out our Patreon episode on Ian's trip to China and Shanghai Noon for more.
That's exactly right.
The beast himself. Thank you for answering the question.
You're so welcome. I would like to, if I were a single man, I would probably explore my sexuality with Diego Luna. Yeah.
You would explore yourself with Diego Luna?
If I could.
See.
That's part of my answer to your question, to the prior question.
And your mother would as well. It's the title of the film.
Pretty good.
Never seen it.
It's quite good. That film
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
My understanding is that it is good. Diego Luna from Narcos Mexico directed a film starring the star of this movie that is about Ian Ryan. It's called Mr. Pig. Diego Luna directed a movie starring Danny Glover and Maya Rudolph called Mr. Pig.
Yes. And in the thumbnail for this film, there's a beautiful Auburn pig of the type that we have at the farm that I mostly work at.
I love the Auburn pig.
Yeah. So a big shout out to Mr.
Check
Pig.
out Ian the Game. Features Auburn pigs. Go to podcastforme.com.
Yep.
Play Ian the Game. When I was telling my coworkers that I was coming down here, a few of them know about Ian the Game. And one of them said, "Oh, are you guys going to go play the poop game together?" And I said, "What?"
You were thinking this might be kind of like a fecal transplant
no,
thing?
I
or
thought
what?
it was maybe like the penis game. You remember the penis game from elementary school?
Of course, yeah.
Where you take turns slowly saying the word penis louder and louder until somebody gets scared.
Yeah.
So I thought it was something like that maybe. But she meant Ian the Game, which is, without question, it is a poop game.
I mean, yeah,
but
that's what as soon as I realized what you meant also, she wasn't wrong. Exactly. No. For a layman, it's a game that has way more poop than average in it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Conker's bad for a day or something. I never played that.
Yep.
Sort of a nasty game for the N64.
This is perfect for today's film.
I remember getting scared.
Have the Conker's bad for a day of movies.
Yeah. Let's do a quick roundup of the things we've done here.
Okay.
Just hit them fast. Yesterday we went to. First of all, this is a classic Jake and Ian trip experience. The COVID scare.
That's right.
This one came almost immediately.
It came...
Wait, no, this was...
No, it came 18 hours into the trip. You skipped a bit of trip.
The first night was the dinner?
Here's the thing. The first day we went to the market that I go to shop at, my normal market. Any thoughts about my daily market?
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Me too.
I had tejate, which is a corn... No.
A pre-Hispanic? Yeah, corn-based.
Pre-Hispanic corn-based drink. Was excited to try. I did not care for it, and it's not Tejate's fault.
Wrong.
No. I understand. I was disappointed. You know what? I was hoping it was like two of my favorite Mexican beverages that I've had in Los Angeles: tepache and tejuino.
Okay.
Both of these are just sort of different experiences. It's like saying I like Sprite, and so when I tried hot chocolate, I was disappointed.
That's exactly right.
Which is fine.
Yep. Yeah. Tejate is a pre-Hispanic drink made out of the seed of the mamey fruit and also the blooming flower of the chocolate, the cacao plant.
Yes, and
it's
has a bunch of
nutty thickness to it.
It tasted to me a lot like, so Ian asked if I wanted full sugar or half sugar, and I said half sugar, and this was maybe a mistake.
Yeah, it was a mistake for him.
Why didn't you tell me that?
I drink it half sugar.
Okay. It also has a bunch of stuff floating in it, which Ian told me is basically nut fat.
I did. And it is.
You know, I didn't ask you this at the time. None of the ingredients that you listed are nuts. So where's that coming from?
The seed of the mamey fruit.
Is como un nut.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wasn't crazy about this, but I did like the little bowl that you get to.
Yeah.
Sort of a cup bowl.
Yep. A jicara, they call it.
Nice. I bought one of those today. Let's take home with me. I liked the market. It had a bunch of beautiful fruits, some of which I recognized, some of which I did not. Beautiful verduras as well. That's vegetables.
Yep.
Some of our, it's weird. Every time I encounter an American who doesn't know like a bunch of Spanish words, I get confused.
Okay, sure.
But like we have friends from the pod who live in like Chicago and New York, Kansas.
Right.
What's
much
up,
less reason to have heard a lot of Spanish. Not in New York so much, but the other two places.
I guess not everybody has been spending their whole life reading McDonald's billboards in Spanish. Right. And learning at least like sabor. Flavor.
That's right. So we went to the market and then we walked around a bit and then Jake was so sleepy, so understandably sleepy. He needed to take a nap. He expired. He briefly expired. And then we walked around a bit more through the most touristy street of Oaxaca. and we saw a bunch of race cars.
Oh yeah, there was inexplicably like a race. I guess a car race going on. They were like souped up, like
It was called the
consumer cars. I guess.
Panamericano. I don't know what this. I don't know anything about car
And
racing.
there were a bunch of people like leaning into the street to take really close pictures of like a Porsche going by, and the Porsche says a bunch of names of what I assume are like
Cement companies and stuff.
Yeah, and are also like an axle company or something.
Right.
I don't know. Cars are fucking shit ass.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I've been enjoying the most about being here in Oaxaca is how absolutely irrelevant the car has been to our experience.
That's one of my great joys as well.
Mm-hmm.
So then we went to a embarrassingly nice for Oaxaca restaurant.
Yeah, it's some of the best food that I've had in my life, probably. Yeah. Really good.
Yeah.
Really fucking good.
Yeah.
And I ran into some really annoying Americans attending a wedding who were in the bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to introduce them to El Jesuit.
Right. You wish a little bit more of Narcos Mexico was real. Sometimes.
Just for them.
Yeah.
Well, I think we do it back at home.
Yeah.
Meet me at in Elysian Park.
That's right.
Kick your ass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was great. I don't really know I just ate a bunch of good stuff that I liked.
Yeah. Pumpkin and goat cheese puree and things of this nature.
Calabacita.
Yep.
Yeah. Some really extraordinary tiny empanadas.
Uh-huh.
Some moles.
Yep.
Ian was really in his element explaining how they say there are 7 moles, but really there are only 2 true moles, and the others are sauces.
Sometimes Jake says something about me that makes me wonder why anybody would ever be friends with me.
No, I enjoyed it, but it is funny to repeat in a way that suggests I didn't like it.
Okay.
So we had dinner.
Then we went to sleep. That's right. Woke up, walked around a bunch again. Walk around part 2. You had some pastries. Mm-hmm.
That's the morning song.
That's the crying of the birds.
Yeah. We had some pastries.
Mm-hmm.
We went to, and this was when we had the COVID scare.
Yes, that's right.
We all tested ourselves. Nobody had COVID.
Nope.
It seems like it may have been a combination of a cold and talking a lot at the restaurant.
That's right.
And then Ian and my lovely podcast girlfriend and I ventured to Monte Alban.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a Zapotec ruin.
Mm-hmm.
It's includes like an observatory, an astronomical observatory,
some pyramid structures.
Seems like some kind of a public oration chamber.
Yep, that's right.
This is on the Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And the half of the road was out going up there, not half of it, but like we had to hike an unexpected mile or so through, like on a path through some lovely,
like I think kind of a scene setting adventure. I mean,
terrain.
Yeah. This is the experience of the people who were lugging the water up to the rich priest class of the original Monte Alban. So
yeah. I'm doing like a split priest archer class. Because I want ranged attacks.
Yeah, you're waiting to get to level 12 so you can become actually like a dual wielding knife priest guy.
I made my character's skin really dark because no one's going to see me play the game.
Yeah.
But it's not like a color that humans are.
No.
So it is invoking some of the kind of weirdness of minstrelsy, but also he's like purple. He's like bluish, but he's blurple, and he's magic.
Yep.
So this place was very cool. It was apparently extraordinarily empty.
Yes.
Compared to normal.
I mean, I think in total we saw of the people not working there or trying to sell something, maybe
2 other parties.
Yeah.
3.
That's right. Yeah. This is very unusual.
And the steps were so high.
Mm-hmm.
The staircases. There's a reason that those guys are not charged anymore. It's because their stairs are too fucking big, dude. No, that's not why. It's because of
and I was going to say, those guys are still around. And
no, I know. They're not in charge. That's why I was going to say not around, but then I switched over.
I was going to say the same as you. The main reason that they're not in charge is because of Spanish colonialism and then subsequent U.S. extraction of labor.
Yeah, no, they should be back in charge. And then maybe just with some more time in charge, they would have continued to iterate on stair height.
Right.
Yeah.
Easy to iterate because there's like a bunch of them. You can try a couple different.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Hugely true.
Yeah.
I liked it. I don't know. Don't know what to say. I liked Monte Alban.
Great.
We're going to have him on the show.
Yep.
Monty Albon. The White Mountain.
Yeah, that's one of the... Some people think it's because it may have looked white in a certain season. Here, I'm entering two moles mode for a second. Some people think because a Spanish
Two moles for Sister Sarah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. The mountains are quite green as of this recording.
Yes.
Really beautiful, verdant hills here in Oaxaca. Beautiful, beautiful country.
Thank you so much.
I have a number of white friends I'm inviting to move down here.
Begging.
I'm building a bunch of condos.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was great. And then we had to wait for Ian to do some of his classes. It became very clear why he is, again, sickly and weak. And his schedule was really strange. And so we had to go find somewhere to eat at 9 o'clock. And we found a restaurant that was still open, but deeply upset with us for...
Yeah, although to be clear, not a crazy time to eat in Mexico. There's a confusing schedule where people will often eat at about 3:30 and then sometimes eat at 8 or 9 or 10.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then I, at this point, was so hungry... And our options were so limited that I ate a pita pizza. This is not... Ian got kind of... I don't know if you were upset with me or yourself more about us not eating Mexican food, but then I did explain that it's all Mexican food because it's here. Right. Mexican people are making it and eating it.
And to be clear, this is a place that, although it is slightly overpriced, I am associated with sort of secondhand. People that I am friends with in the sustainable agriculture community are friends with this place because they strive to be mostly vegetarian and vegan and also sustainable. Yeah, they had a
lot of options.
Yeah.
And also they gave me a little to-go bottle of tepache.
Glass bottle because not wanting to use the dark material of plastic.
More like Peter Pullman over here because he's pulling his Peter, this man. His Dark Materials was written by a guy named Philip Pullman, and so I was saying Ian is masturbating himself.
Surprised that you didn't go with something. I have a subtle knife. Okay.
You do hold stuff like you've cut 2 of your fingers off by accident with your special magic knife that can cut holes in dimensions.
Now, part of the reason I'm holding my mic so crazy is because Jake reminded me that I should be talking past it.
I'm holding it the same way Ian is.
Yeah.
We're each holding our mic basically like a fork that we're tantalizing ourselves with.
I think of mine as more of a flute that I'm sort of past the end of.
Sí. Yeah. Claro que sí. I'm going to take a picture of myself holding the microphone.
Okay, so today we went to some other markets and had some more food. I think
Delicious.
You enjoyed it.
Yep. We went to the Jardín Etnobotanico.
Yes.
And we had a Spanish language tour that I understood a proud 45% of.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Thank you. So did you.
Talked about the ethnic interactions with the extremely biodiverse plants of Mexico, but specifically Oaxaca.
If I had to pick, I would pick diverse, but if they can be bi and diverse, now that's
a good Spanish term because it means or.
Yes.
And then he had enfrijoladas, which is one of those weird dishes that is extremely common here, like unremarkable food, truly, and somehow just didn't make it to the United States.
I almost tipped myself over in the chair. I almost died.
He almost went. This is a food that is as common as enchiladas, and enchiladas are in every Mexican restaurant in the United States.
Are enfrijoladas more of a southern thing?
No.
Okay, so they would have them in...
These are everywhere,
in Ciudad Juarez or whatever. But somehow they don't make it to El Paso.
Nope. I think probably in 1950 when there were Mexican immigrants making restaurants.
You get one.
Yeah, they just didn't put it on the menu and then everybody else decided they had to do the same thing, I guess.
Good as fuck.
Yeah.
We had some of the famous chocolate de agua.
Yep.
And dipped bread in it. And I felt very proud of myself for simply turning to my friends, my eating companions, and saying, it's not that good.
This is what he said.
Yeah.
But he did it respectfully. It was the respect of somebody saying, I see you as an equal, so I feel comfortable saying that I didn't enjoy that particularly. We
saw one of Ian's radical artist friends who was intimidatingly cool. And we bought a little print from her workshop, and she seemed nonplussed, bordering on upset by this.
Yeah, that's her vibe. She's a dear friend of mine.
Yeah, and she seems cool.
Yeah, she's from a different part of Mexico, and I made a joke about her being a gentrifier, and she gave me a look like, I will send you to the moon.
Yeah. She was working on a piece of art that was very, very impressive of a Dia de Muertos skeleton that was playing the French horn.
Yeah.
And I said, como Jurassic Park.
And she turned to look at me.
She turned to look at Ian like, what?
Yeah.
And he's like, you've seen the film Jurassic Park? And she goes, yeah. And he said, La canción de Jurassic Park, the song of Jurassic Park has a French horn.
And she said, oh, wow. He knows that? And I said, yeah, he knows that. Yeah.
Classic Jake meeting a friend's friend experience.
Yeah, that's right. And she was starting from scratch her entire work of art because she had done it in the wrong direction, was displeased with it. And I am wondering whether we can do the same with the podcast.
This episode or the whole thing?
Nope, the whole thing.
Yeah. I suggested that we start over at the beginning with Clint.
Yeah, you did.
That was one of the ideas, was that when we hit Crime Macho, we just roll back into Play Misty for Me.
He did suggest
Could still do it.
Yep. We'll see.
Then we went to Mercado Benito Juarez, which is like a big market here. Lots and lots of little stalls. Got some huarache sandals there. So nice.
Yeah, like from the Beach Boys, huh?
Yes. And we got, little souvenirs and stuff. And now it's now. Oh, and in the meantime, we moved to the Airbnb, and I promptly, with my elbow, was drying off after the shower with my elbow. They have one of those wall-mounted soap and shampoo dispensers that is not uncommon to a hotel or an Airbnb. And I hit it with my elbow, and it fell, and it hit me. It landed on my foot, and it hurt so bad. And it broke open. Mm-hmm. I think all the pieces are intact, but all
news.
of the body wash is gone.
Yeah.
And I can't get it back together. And also, I found a screw on the ground that I don't know if that's related. Tiny
would
screw.
Imagine so. Have to assume so.
Someone needs help. And this is after my first day here. I dropped the body wash that Ian got for me and my famous podcast girlfriend. Dropped that on the floor of his shower.
Yep.
2 little pieces of plastic came off of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right.
So if any listener ever enters my home, they will see that my shower, which is a sort of a combination bath shower, my body wash is resting on the corner of the
still
tub.
Sealed.
No, it's below. It's down. I can't have up body wash.
Interesting.
Can't be trusted with up body wash.
It has become clear to me. Yeah. And what's funny is that I sometimes have it down, but I made sure to raise it for you because I felt that it would be more respectful.
You raise me up. Josh Corbin.
Yep.
The film is There Are No Saints.
Yes.
No hay santos. Now, this is a film.
Jesuita. Yeah.
See, it's a film directed by Alfonso Pineda Ulloa.
Yes. Interpersonally, and I think in Mexico, known as Poncho Pineda.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That on special Mexican internet.
It's on, I believe, his website. So it is in Spanish, though.
Should we have been going to everyone's websites?
Yeah, you should be going to it. Actually, I simply can't tell Jake to be going to more websites. Now
they're going to start throttling my data, not because I'm downloading it. He's just the guy's visiting too many websites. He's browsing so much.
Yeah, he is truly browsing. Did you discover that you, and Paul Schrader shares? Well, look, I was pretty deep into the phrase.
Did he go to UCLA? Is that what you're saying?
He went to UCLA. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Pretty fucking sick, dude.
Yeah.
This is a film directed by that guy. It was released in 2022.
But that's not when it was made.
But we will tantalize you with the answer to that in a moment after a message from our sponsor, the YouTube channel World Wild Hearts. These are some digital nomads whose video 10 best things to do in and around Oaxaca City I watched, and it made me want even more than usual to commit crimes against persons.
Right.
This is a white American guy and a Belgian woman. And wouldn't you know it,
they were famously some of the worst colonizers as well.
Well, yeah, no, the Belgians, they really they did a number.
They made other European people shudder.
This guy somehow is a self-proclaimed digital nomad and YouTube, like travel YouTuber. They have 203,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And this guy can't pronounce any words in Spanish. But I did want to ask you really quick. This is part of it. It says here in the copy that I'm supposed to ask you about this.
Okay.
Now, in your opinion, would you say that about a 1.5 hour drive from Oaxaca City, you can find the pueblos mancomunados?
I would say
that's
I would
true?
say that in an hour you can get to the pueblos mancomunados if you know what you're doing.
Okay, thank you. And then also, it says, just to add your personal experience here. In your personal experience, would you say that from some of the best experimental restaurants to delicious street food, the Oaxacan cuisine is uniquely influenced by its cultural diversity?
I would, with great hesitation, share that information. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's been... We really want to thank World Wild Hearts for sponsoring this episode.
Apropos of that, gentrification in Oaxaca is even so far beyond the gentrification that Mexico largely has experienced because of digital nomads, that most rental properties in downtown Oaxaca have seen their rent increase by 90%, 60 to 90% in the 4 years that I've been living here. So
Ian is a white guy who could no longer afford to live here.
That's correct, which I am not looking for sympathy, and I'm very aware of my participation in this. I like to believe, I hope, that by the way I integrate myself in the community and try to not purchase things at extraordinarily inflated costs, and also work with people here and try to do things that I would be proud of doing in the United States, the type of work that I believe contributes anywhere. I think I'm maybe at close to net zero in terms of badness. That's my goal. But I mean, I just mean compared to these people.
I made a facial expression at Ian, and the face was because Net Zero is the name of the main character in this film.
It's true. That's a great
guy's
point.
name is Net, though.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
So I would say that's what I strive for anyway. And I don't think that I'm probably helping at all. But I do think that most of the other people here are doing a worse job than me. I hope that's true.
Yeah. I hope.
And which is why I'm begging white people to, if you would like to visit and do sort of responsible tourism, that could be good. Don't move here and pay United States rents because you can afford that. And
because you think that's the only kind of rent that there is and displace people. Yeah. So, that having been said, I'm sure I would like the non-gentrified parts of Mexico perhaps even more than Oaxaca.
Right.
Paul Schrader, it's first announced in 2010.
Yeah.
Paul Schrader will be directing a film from his own script called The Jesuit. Now, looking at the filmography of the man, around 2010, where are we there? We're like that's between Adam Resurrected and The Canyons, that big 5-year break where he seems unable to get anything going to the point that he makes The Canyons, which is a big experiment in alternative financing and distribution for a film. Yes. Well, not really alternative distribution, just financing.
Yeah.
So he's got this script called The Jesuit. Oscar Isaac, widely rumored to star. And this is interesting because this is early Oscar.
This is fairly early, Isaac. This is right around the time of Inside Llewyn Davis. That's maybe, a 2011?
You're right. But
I mean, I think he was early back then. This was when people were saying this guy is going to be huge.
He's in Robin Hood. He's in Ridley Scott's Robin Hood.
A lot of supporting roles.
He's been in Drive at this point. Drive, which...
Drive was brought up in several of these sort of like early murmurings about this film. As sort of like, what if it's... I mean, we know he worked with Refn, and is there any potential for this being the same type of exploitation?
But he hasn't worked with Refn at this point, has he?
No, but I mean, you and I know that he worked with Refn, and I think it's just interesting that people are saying that the sort of using exploitation film architecture to make art, is it going to be that type of film? Yeah,
this was kind of I feel like this was a trend at the time to get art films sold to a wider public by making them premise-wise, trailer-wise, resemble a type of movie people used to go see for fun.
Yep.
Also announced as starring in the film, we got Willem Dafoe. Probably his first time working with Schrader, I guess.
Right.
Come on. Michelle Rodriguez from Blue Crush and some other stuff.
Yep.
Hath Vega from Spanglish.
That's right.
And some other stuff. And a guy named Manolo Cardona. Who, are you familiar with this guy? Colombian actor?
Yeah, he's in a bunch of... I mean, if you are a fan of Latin American cinema, he's the guy that you will see show up.
Oh, he's in Beverly Hills Chihuahua.
He's... He's in Beverly Hills, Chihuahua with Jose Maria Yespik.
He is. So Schrader's trying to get Latin financing for it. It's not really coming together. And then he also has the chance. This is the film Bait Falls Apart, which was a shark movie that Bret Easton Ellis was working on with him that was set to go and then didn't. And so I think Schrader basically, when the financing seemed unclear, Isaac dropped out.
Dipped out.
To the extent that he was ever officially involved. And then the movie sort of falls apart and Schrader does the canyons instead.
Right, he sort of opts for it. At this early stages, the film, I think the production and distribution rights were in the hands of Maya Entertainment, which was a very briefly... Well, I guess...
She's in Mr. Big.
That's right.
Maya Rudolph's nickname is Maya Entertainment.
Yeah. So this existed, I think, from 2008 to 2011, right about the time that this comes crashing down.
Really?
And it is one of these film production houses that is hoping to change the representation of Latinx people in cinema
by enriching a guy who's already pretty rich.
And by mostly, as far as I can tell, I don't think I've seen any of their films. If I just browsing the list, and they seem to be recreating a lot of the stereotypes, I would say, that they are purporting to be fighting. Maybe that's unfair. Yeah, I haven't seen these films, but just at a distance, that's what I see.
The passionate woman and her scary boyfriend.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Beverly Hills, Chihuahua.
I mean, it's films about Pablo Escobar, but saying maybe like the real guy.
And like something. The cool, He's cool,
So anyway, this business disintegrates. Schrader goes with the Canyons, and by 2012, I think,
the producer, like the rights returned to the producer because of the way contracts work or something. And he wants to make it with even more Latin crew and people behind it. He's given to this guy.
So at this point, do you want to read just Schrader's representation? But the man's name is Santiago Garcia Galvan.
I would love to read that.
Yeah.
This is by Paul Schrader. This is published February 15th, 2014, Valentine's Day, almost, in IndieWire. 5 years ago, I wrote an original script called The Jesuit, which I was set to direct starring Oscar Isaac when a financing entity, Maya, collapsed. It was meant to be a return to my action exploitation roots, i.e. Rolling Thunder. Interestingly, a return to a film that he has disowned.
Disowned, didn't direct, and has sort of been attached to him against his will, generally.
I also wanted to make a Latin film. After a second film fell through, a Bret Easton Ellis original titled Bait, Bret and I embarked on a fascinating DIY adventure, which resulted in The Canyons. It's not the hills.
Mm-hmm.
While doing this, I learned that the Jesuit producer, Santiago Garcia Galvan, had regained the script rights and wanted to go forward immediately. I told Santiago that I didn't think I could abandon Canyons. I said that since I meant the Jesuit to be a Latin film and I was the only Anglo involved, he should get a Mexican director. Big revelation about Willem Dafoe, sounds like. Santiago replied that he'd already given the script to Alfonso Pineda Ulloa, who wanted to do it. So that was that. They wanted me to rewrite the ending for budget reasons, but I thought their new ending was wrong. Alfonso wanted to meet with me, but I refused. Santiago wanted me to come to the set, but I refused. Shrug it off. Move on. Well, I saw an unfinished cut of the film 2 nights ago. I loved it.
Yep.
It's better than it would have been if I'd directed. It's a badass exploitation film with a black soul and shoot from the hip style. He means, like, in the sense of black comedy. Like, dark. I never really was an exploitation or action director. That's true. I appreciate the genre, but I would not have been a good fit to direct them. The man who wanted to direct this film.
Yep.
If I directed The Jesuit, it would have been too tasteful, too restrained, too mature. Alfonso did a great job. Jose Maria Yespik, a.k.a. The Jesuit, is a totally cool, mean son of a bitch and a movie star to boot. Even though there were elements that didn't make sense and things I would not have approved of, I was caught up in the film's exploitation gusto. Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
I even watched it a second time and I enjoyed it just as much. Sometimes life surprises you. You'll notice Paul Schrader wrote this in 2014 and we said this movie came out in 2022.
You might be saying, wait, what?
That is because nobody felt the same as Paul Schrader about the movie,
right.
I guess.
That's right. Or at least some critical studio people or distribution people did not feel that this film was worth releasing until... Here's where we are speculating because there's so little information available about this.
Yeah.
I think Jake rightly said that probably related to the sort of Schrader Renaissance, as people referred to it.
Yes.
The first Reformed and then Card Counter, and then just at that time this is released, basically sort of simultaneous or nearly simultaneous with Master Gardener.
Yes. I think that is probably the case, which is very strange because this film was all ready to go in 2014, the same year as the release of the extremely popular, successful film John Wick.
Yes.
And also only a few years after the success of Machete.
Yeah.
And
it's on a continuum
Kills.
it's on continua with both of these films.
Yeah, and it's Robert Rodriguez has proven that there is a market for a Latin action hero.
A Latin Willem Dafoe. Isn't he Latin in Once Upon a Time in Mexico?
That is very true, actually.
Right.
So those films are popular. Drive, obviously quite popular. There is a way to, from my extremely dumbass, non-professional position, I'm pretty sure you could market like a neon-lit revenge movie to audiences in 2014. I think that's possible.
I don't think the climate improved between 2014 and 2022.
Certainly did not.
This is not a spoiler exactly, but Ron Perlman is in the film, and I think he's in Drive, right? Am I remembering that? I
don't think so.
Okay. Is he not in Drive?
Albert Brooks is Bryan Cranston.
I thought he was one of the bad guys that they have
Ron
to go
Perlman?
fight.
He's in a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
But also,
He is in the film. His name is Nino.
In the film Drive?
Yeah.
I saw it
You're
in
so
the theater.
wrong.
I haven't revisited
Okay.
Drive because I'm an adult man.
All right.
He got an aftermarket, so the Scorpion is on the inside. It's not an official Drive jacket. They fucked it up.
And it has like big bug eyes.
We saw a Scorpion.
We saw a Scorpion.
It was
That's
scary.
right. We saw an alacran.
Yeah, apparently they changed Schrader's ending. There's some pretty obvious ADR in this.
There is.
There was a kind of dreamy quality generated from the obvious removal of some connective tissue to the point where people say things that then don't pan out. And so you have to go back and wonder, like, was this guy lying?
And here's the thing. I like an underexplained film, and I like an underexplained action film particularly. Are you familiar with the type of film like the Korean action film Ballerina? You know this movie?
No, I don't. But I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
All right. This type of film that is John Wick tissue, and it doesn't really matter what's happening. So in some ways it's better to underexplain because they know that that's not what the movie's about, and the ellipsis is better than
I would say
anything
that
else.
for me, there are two things that define the John Wick derived film, John Wick exploitation films.
Yeah.
Number one, neon lights or very exaggerated colors.
Right.
And number two, a kind of evolution of the unstoppable killing machine where it is a highly damaged killing machine, where like the killing machine absorbs a great amount of physical damage throughout the film, keeps going, but you get you have battle scars.
And this goes with psychological trauma that we are supposed to bear witness to.
Yes.
Now, should we circle back to explain what the film is about? I think it's a good setup to say who is Neto Niente.
So this film is about a guy, a former gang enforcer, kind of a hitman, dirty work heavy for ill-defined cartel or cartels, who is known colloquially as the Jesuit in reference to participation of Jesuit priests in the torture during the Spanish Inquisition, which is not
in reference
correct.
To the invented fact of Jesuits being in charge.
Yeah, I think it was like Dominicans or something.
I think
right?
that's right.
Yeah. Guys like from the Dominican Republic.
No, that's not right.
Come on, Dominican monks.
Yep.
Dominican friars?
I think
that
a
was
Dominican
one of the
Dominican friar,
types of torture they used.
Really, I think it was
Frying.
the creation of the
They
king.
put a guy in a hot pan. That was the joke
friars.
I was making.
Ah, yeah, that's really good. The king and queen of Spain, for reasons that historians debate, created the Spanish Inquisition. But it doesn't matter because Jesuits basically weren't involved.
Yeah, but I think Schrader liked calling the guy the Jesuit. And it's
Yeah.
a better title than the Dominican.
That's right.
Because that would cause further confusion.
Yeah.
So this guy, Neto Niente, he was a very scary man who would do a lot of exceptionally, like unnecessarily brutal violence. He was apprehended, but at the beginning of the film, as we were told through radio, like some extremely expository talk radio, that I got to assume was added after a bunch of shit was cut out of the film. A deathbed confession by the cop one of the cops involved in his trial, has led to his release. It's very Dirty Harry style because the cop didn't follow the letter of the law. An absolutely unbelievably dangerous killer is allowed to go free.
Yeah, I actually don't think this was probably added because this is about the level of non-engagement with the politics that the film is resting on, where we get some...
I just imagine it might have been mentioned by characters we ever see from again.
we ever see from again. I get what you're saying, but there's also we get some like radio callers giving the response to this. And to me, this is basically some of the only color, some of the only like sense of what the movie could be about, beyond just watching this guy go on a revenge spree. Because we get callers saying like, I can't believe this, I think this is why we got to kill these guys, or this animal shouldn't be on the streets. And then we see a man who is haunted by his past. We are seeing flashbacks to moments where he was beating up a woman, and he seems to be
relishing.
Well, in the flashback, he's relishing. In the present, he's tortured by it.
Yes. He's getting out of prison.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people telling him, like, you'll be back or whatever. He's picked up by his
lawyer,
Tim Roth.
That's right.
In it.
And he's still
I'm your lawyer.
He is still doing the Tim Roth voice.
Counselor now, aren't I?
Yeah.
That's one of the worst impressions I've ever done. I've been in Mexico too long. I can't remember how English accent.
See, it's happening to him too.
Yeah. Tim Roth, great. Love Tim Roth.
Yeah.
He hasn't been in a Schrader?
Hasn't been in a Schrader, to my mind. We talked about him a little bit on our Patreon episode about Pulp Fiction. But
yes,
he can elevate a shitty Tarantino or Robert Rodriguez
film. I noted in this that Tim Roth seems incapable of phoning it in. He's making choices here in an interesting way. But he basically says, like, you got to get the fuck out of town. Everybody wants to kill you, the cops and the cartels.
Right.
But first, he wants to go see his son, Julio.
That's right.
So he goes to the home of his wife. I think it's one of those situations where she is still technically his wife, but has left him because he was presumably going to be in prison for the rest of his life.
This is his wife, Paz Vega, who is playing sort of ambiguously Latin and pushing the boundaries of, is she Spanish or is she...
Be-wigged in this film. The wig looks so bad. Her makeup looks so bad. We were all turning to one another during the film and saying, she could play an alien. She's an unusual looking person. And I even went as far as to say, many famous Spanish women look kind of like an alien. Is that okay to say? Should I go back to the La Raza stuff?
Something. Maybe we can find a third area to play around in.
Ian was saying that to me when we were making love earlier.
Yeah.
Yes.
She is a handsome woman, but she just looks strange because of the way they've made her up.
They've really styled her so crazy. And she looks like she's in, I said this during the film, she looks like she's in an extremely annoying band.
That's right.
Which is sort of a bit of foreshadowing.
That is. So I want to also set the scene for viewers who probably will never see this film, because I will do my characteristic thing here of saying just totally forgettable mediocre to me. This is not one of the ones that riled me up in terms of how bad it is. I think it had some very small interesting moments, but better versions of this kind of schlock.
Yes. I will say this about the film.
Yeah.
I thought that the cinematography by Matteo Londono, who seems to mostly have made Mexican films that I have not heard of because they have not been marketed to me. The digital cinematography is much more interesting than it has any need to be. He does things with digital by utilizing the increased detail in very dark scenes.
Yeah,
he doesn't do the annoying, like the famous prestige TV what the fuck is going on stuff. He uses it to high contrast effect in a way that I found more interesting than, for example, the canyons.
Not this. I wouldn't compare. That's what I mean. This is not Canyons bad. This is very functional. In fact, I would say that it borders on overlit slightly in some of those moments because it...
What if I do the rest of the podcast standing up?
I think it'd be cool. Okay. I think it'd look great.
I think they did that on some podcast that I listened to. I hope it wasn't you made it weird.
Okay. I hope so.
We should send the Jesuit to Pete Holmes' house.
Yeah, see what happens.
Pinche Jesuito. Pinche
Jesuito.
They call him that.
Yeah, in the film, I do think they were calling him Jesuito, which doesn't make sense because it's Jesuita. But
well, he's a boy.
Yeah, that's not how it works, though. Doesn't matter.
This guy, Jose Maria Yaspic.
Yeah,
he looks so much like Sam the Eagle.
He does
from the Muppets.
He looks like a hot, muscular Sam the Eagle.
He has a really long face. No, he's not. He's not unattractive. Interestingly, we mentioned both ADR and films that are obviously cut to shit to the point that they generate a kind of surreal quality.
And it's just a high octane editing style, so it just magnifies them.
Right. So and that reminds, of course, of another film starring Jose Maria Yaspic, Madam Web, in which he plays the leader of Las Arañas, the spider people of the Amazon jungle, where
Peruvian jungle, which
is it?
Yeah, I think so. Isn't it meant to be?
Well, anyway, that's where Madam Web's mom was researching spiders when she died, or whatever the line is from the film.
Yeah.
So I remember in that movie thinking, well, this guy's got an interesting face.
Yep.
And sure enough, someone else felt that way too. Diego Luna, when he was casting Mr. Pig.
That's right.
So I'm still standing.
That's true. So this guy, he's out of prison. He is scary. We don't know for sure until the cops come to bother him. And he is sort of not wanting to maybe kill them, but he is owning them. He dodges a behind the back attempt at
They tried to Rodney King him.
They try to Rodney King him, that's right. But they do like a sucker nightstick, but he dodges
up the stairs. I'm going up the stairs with my microphone.
This is my dream come true.
Yeah.
Now, this is cool. We get a good line from a cop. You want to say the line?
Yeah, I do. Let me check my notes. I had to go down the stairs to get my notes.
No.
He calls him bitch eyes.
Well,
or he calls his wife bitch eyes.
That's later. Oh, no, I bet the line that you called out in the film where the cop says, never kick a fresh turd when it's hot out.
Oh, yeah. I didn't write that down. You know what? I thought it would stick with me, and I'm learning something.
Yeah. And
it did not.
Here's the thing. Our lead, Neto, he puts on... It's not parody clothing. This is the problem. People do wear this clothing in narcocultura.
He's got like a shark skin suit.
He's wearing like leather pants and I don't know what you call that type of rodeo shirt.
That sounds good to me. With like the snap buttons.
Yeah, and it's got kind of a paisley design on the back. I don't know.
He's also in a shark skin suit for much of the film, like a shiny suit, which is more John Wick style.
Which again, there are people who dress like this, but the film traffics in what I would call borderline stereotypes in a way that...
Oh, yeah, big time.
It's just interesting to see from a Mexican filmmaker working for a primarily United States audience.
Well, and with the racist cop who is like a parody of a racist cop, like Texan cop, to the point where like the guy definitely doesn't sound like he's from Texas, even if he is.
No. I wrote down he sounds like a Southern Sheriff caricature. He sounds like if the Rebel Ridge guys turned it up. Like 5 times more.
What's the name of the guy who's in a bunch of James Bond movies? Remember when there's like a Southern sheriff who's in like 3 of the Roger Moore James Bond movies, to the point where they're like, boy, howdy Gladys, I'm so happy we took this trip to Thailand. What the hell? And like it's because that movie doesn't go. He's
Felix?
He's in Live and Let Die.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Sheriff.
Yeah.
No, he sounds, and so that made me think about Robert Rodriguez, because the Michael Parks sheriff in like Planet Terror, and it's exactly this type.
It's sort of less hateful when everybody's dialed up, which I think you're maybe implying. I think that's right. Yeah, he says something like, well, we found our boy with the hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah. We were introduced at this point through, and it's not just ADR. It's also extremely bad delivery.
Yeah.
But we're introduced to Neil McDonough, the Blue Eyes Man.
Yeah, now the film has activated 2 of my TV loves, my embarrassing TV.
What was Neil McDonough on?
He's in the other TV series that you make fun of me for liking.
Smallville?
No. The one that I actually like.
Justified.
Yeah. He's the big bad of the season 4, I believe, of Justified. If I remember correctly. Maybe season 3.
He plays the new boyfriend or husband or whatever of Paz Vega.
Character. Yeah.
And his character's name is Vincent.
Yeah.
This was, we presume, the Willem Dafoe character, if I had to guess.
Yes. Now, what's interesting is in the TV series of Justified, he has a little gun on a track that he can whip out.
Oh, like in Como Taxi Driver.
That's exactly right.
In this, nothing about him is interesting at all, except that he throws a baseball at a guy who's tied up.
True. Yeah.
But the baseball doesn't come back. He's not like a baseball-themed villain or anything.
No.
And like, that would be good. There's bat. There's cleats.
So here's part of what I'm going to say about why I think the film doesn't even sort of like ring cleanly as the type of film that Paul describes in his review. I think you have two options for a protagonist like this in a film like this. You can go the Rolling Thunder direction of like this guy, or the Taxi Driver, or the maybe even the Inside Llewyn Davis direction of this guy is like fucked up in a way that is not necessarily likable at all. We're just witnessing a guy who we maybe understand is broken, and we have to produce all of the compassion because there's nothing on screen that elicits compassion. But the problem is we see him punching a woman in the face, stabbing her through her hands, and then killing her. And we also get moments where he is trying to connect with his son and tell his son, like, I'm not really a saint. You shouldn't look up to me. But those are the words of like a reformed anti-hero to hero guy.
Yeah, I saw there was a quite a good review on Letterboxd by a user named Nick, his review called this sort of a dry run for the card counter.
Yeah.
But he also notably called it a kind of pro-torture card counter, which I thought was very well put. And, you know, we get the film basically from this point on, because Vincent shows up at Paz Vega's house, kills her, and kidnaps his son, Julio, played by some kid from The Americans who Ian recognized. And I didn't, because I haven't seen The Americans, because I am not employed by the avclub.com 10 years ago.
I mean, this was prime AV Club time for me.
Who the fuck watches all these shows? I mean, every time I'm on Twitter.
Both of these shows, Justified is fun, and The Americans, despite being written by a guy who...
No, I believe that it's...
like explicitly defended the CIA and shoots some of those dumb USSR scary scenes. The show is about marriage, and it's quite good.
No, I believe this. But following a bunch of barely employed film and entertainment reviewers and coverers, as I do, some of whom have been on the show. Hello, how are you?
Yep.
We love you so much. It really seems like television shows are generated exclusively for like 6 people to watch, including Tasha Robinson.
Yeah.
And how much money could Tasha Robinson be giving to like AMC or whatever? I don't understand who is watching all these shows. Who the fuck is watching? What is that goddamned Nicole Kidman, Zoe Saldana thing? Lioness?
Yeah,
or whatever.
that's right.
No one's watching that except the guy at the airport. I did see a guy watching that at the airport.
He did see a guy watching that. And I've gone basically cold turkey on television in the last 5 years, with a few exceptions.
Wait, does that correspond with your weakening and your frequent sickness? Do we have to get you back on Prestige TV? Yeah. Jesus. No, but
anyway, the son got kidnapped.
The son gets kidnapped. Julio gets kidnapped.
By Neil McDonough.
Who is quite a talented artist, and I really like his style of red on like canvas too.
Oh yeah, he makes these beautiful drawings of his father in single tone.
He draws his incarcerated father as Christ on the cross.
He does.
With a very, very accurate representation of his father's intricate tattooing, which I think is quite nice. This kid should grow up to be a production designer on a straight to VOD Paul Schrader.
That's right.
Yeah. So he gets kidnapped, and it then becomes a semi-race swapped
Rolling Thunder.
It's exactly like Rolling Thunder.
So can we help the audience recall Rolling Thunder?
Rolling Thunder is a film about a Vietnam vet who returns, and he is obviously extremely traumatized by his experience in Vietnam.
And again, he's a true traumatized, like no coming back, probably.
Yeah. Left most of himself over there. He is having a very hard time returning to civilian life when his wife and son are extremely brutally murdered in front of him because some guys want to get the money that he got from the government for being a POW.
Exactly.
And they also stick his hand into the garbage disposal and grind his hand up so he needs a hook.
Yeah. At this point, kill his wife and son.
They kill them in front of him.
Yeah.
At this point, he basically finds purpose, hooks up with a borderline, like intellectually disabled
Tommy Lee Jones.
waitress.
Oh.
Remember?
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And later Tommy Lee Jones, who is another returning vet.
But there's a waitress character who has a very clear analog in this film, because both of them are playing almost sex workers, including the way it's sort of like,
yeah.
And I'm going to use an insulting word, but I think this is what the films are doing, like bimbos who are maybe have hearts of gold.
Well, in Rolling Thunder, it's even more explicit in the script, the Schrader's original script, but in the film, she's like a kind of like a uniform chaser type.
Yeah.
She's clearly very drawn to military men, and in this film, I mean, it's not even really worth getting into because the film doesn't engage with it enough. But the Inez character played by Shannon Sossaman in this film seems to be, she's the one who's in an annoying band in real life. She's in
Shannon
the band
Sossaman,
Warpaint.
I think most people recognize from A Knight's Tale.
40
She's
Days and 40
the
Nights. Oh yeah,
Queen or something.
40 Days and 40 Nights Tale. Is that anything?
Yeah. It could be something. Rules of Attraction.
With the guy from Trapped.
Yeah.
Trapped, the band.
Yep.
Josh Hartnett from Trapped, the band.
Yes. So she
plays Inez, who is a waitress at what is described in the film as a titty bar called, is this the one that's called El Sombrero Negro, or is that later? No, this one is called, this one's called Ladybirds, which
Very good. Lady
thought
Bird.
was maybe a LBJ First Lady joke by Paul Schrader that no one was going to get.
Maybe. It's possible.
But this seems to be like a nativist titty bar in Texas that explicitly does business with organized crime.
So this film features the same two types of bad guys, which are racist white guys and also Mexican caricatures.
But the racist white guys seem to all be working with the Mexican caricatures in a way that I suppose it's entirely possible that this happens in real life, but the film doesn't engage with that as a point of
except to sort of revel in the way that any film or semi-prestige TV series about different gangs likes to sort of enjoy their nasty behavior sometimes.
And, like many a exploitation film, and especially neo-exploitation films, as we talked about with Tarantino. We've talked about this with Dog Eat Dog. We talked about this probably when I went off on S. Craig Zoller. This is obviously an opportunity for people who know better, people who know you're not supposed to say some of these words anymore, these words that have been used to dehumanize already marginalized people, to further dehumanize or perpetuate the dehumanization of these people. These folks who know better than to say racial pejoratives. Yeah. They have found what they think of is a workaround where they put these words into the mouths of undereducated bad characters, people who are malos.
But it's so excessive. Again, I've said before, we don't try to do the woke monitoring podcast of like, are people using the right language? But this is just part of the texture. I mean, this is in the lineage of exploitation films, which we've talked about on the podcast before. I hope
which includes Rolling Thunder. Rolling Thunder is one of the favorite exploitation films of the exploitation film enjoyer.
Right. Now,
a man.
What's missing here?
First of all, there are women who like this. I was going to say a man type.
Yeah.
A person type, largely, I think, mostly mask. A kind of person that I don't trust.
Right. Which is not to say there aren't exploitation films that are enjoyable, I believe.
Right.
I think there are, in fact, many.
Well, and this is, I've talked about I don't know if I've talked about this. My famous podcast girlfriend's father is a lifelong film freak. Mm-hmm. To the point where he's chased the dragon for so long that almost nothing hits for him anymore.
Yeah.
And so he has taken to watching a lot of Japanese pinku films.
Yeah.
And these are softcore pornography. So the extremely violent, misogynistically violent types of Japanese softcore pornography produced mostly in the 70s, or at least starting in the 70s. But he, like many I think, media studies scholar looking for an underexplored area to become an expert in, finds at the corners of these films, issues being explored that don't have a place in more mainstream film because the people putting the money up for an exploitation film are generally like, you have to have nudity every 20 minutes and blood every 10.
Yep.
And that'll get us enough entrances to the drive-in Anything else, I'm not even going to watch it. Like, so there is an avenue in this kind of marginal cinema for the exploration of themes and ideas and situations that more closely watched films produced by Paramount or whatever, they can't touch, at least in the 70s.
In a sort of contradictory fashion, which I admire, they achieve both social realism. Huh?
It's kind of Ian Wares. He dresses badly.
Yeah. Social realism of some of the communities that are covered in these films, and also an extremely heightened, like, French gore, explore your sensory reactions thing. So I think, typically you don't get the expressionistic, over the top, and the realist in one thing, but I think that is something that good exploitative cinema can sometimes achieve, or sometimes achieve.
The one of the characteristic figures of this, one of the most the emblems of this contradiction, is somebody like Pam Grier, where you get
your Foxy Browns.
You get a black woman who is allowed to be the lead of an action film. She's allowed to beat up white guys,
beat up cops. I think she shotguns a cop in that movie. She cuts a guy's
dick off, I think, at some point. But also, she's playing a character named Foxy Brown, and she has to like be naked for a lot of the movie.
She's topless, and she's
and so you have this is a contradiction.
Yep.
But hoy en día, nowadays, you don't have to trick the studios quite as much to get your film in front of people, especially a film of this size that's probably going to go mostly, if not entirely, straight to VOD or Redbox or whatever. You can skip a lot of the exploitation stuff to get a movie with a Mexican guy in it, or skip at least the nastier exploitation stuff. Something like John Wick has a lot of exploitation roots to it. Obviously, it's the over-the-top characters. In that case, there's like Russian mob caricatures, but I think those guys are okay. We don't really need to worry about
I don't think so.
Anti-Russian sentiment too much. But you get lots of nasty blood, and you get you can get knives through people's eyeballs or whatever. But we can skip the part where people throw around racial slurs, and every woman in the film has to be a sex worker who is naked and then murdered. You know,
precisely.
We've gotten to a point where we can take the good and leave some of the bad out, and the people who are continuing to do the bad, I am suspicious of them.
Me too. I am suspicious of them, even though I think they are sometimes just demonstrating something I understand completely, which is seeing something that you like, admiring it, trying to capture some of that spirit, and maybe not knowing how, or thinking about how conditions have changed materially in the production of films in a way that maybe you can capture that spirit by doing it differently. Now, today, just coincidentally, you and I were talking about punk music. And this is something any fan of punk is familiar with, where was the original periods of punk, were they messy and sometimes juvenile and sometimes misogynistic and sometimes racist?
Were there Nazis? Absolutely. Were there literal fucking Nazis involved? Yeah.
But there was also Nazi punks fuck off, and there was girl bands, and there was, Bad Brains, black punk, and there's these opportunities for people to push back that are interesting and genuinely DIY. I was reading a little bit from this book, Nightmare USA, about exploitation cinema, and they try to shift the phrase. They're calling it exploitation independence in the book, because they want to capture what they feel is a fundamental part of that. And now, not to say that punk is dead or something. I'm not going to wade into that. I don't care enough about it. But there are so many recognizable descendants of punk that are missing features that maybe make or made punk attractive.
Some of them are even called that.
There's
a punk band called The Descendants. The Descendants have like a little squiggle guy that you see on like t-shirts or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Try a little harder. Or less hard.
Yeah.
I feel like it's in a kind of a bad medium space, the squiggle guy from The Descendants.
Yeah.
Anyway. He's got kind of an XKCD vibe to me.
I don't know.
I don't trust him. I'm not trusting of a lot of people. So the thing with exploitation cinema is, I think also crucially, the communal experience of it. When originally produced. You're at a drive-in, you're in a grindhouse theater with a bunch of other, some of these people are freaks, some of them are teenagers who want to make out, some of them are people who are drunk and need a place to sleep, some of them are
people
whatever.
Who have never seen themselves on film before,
some of them whatever. And you get kind of a communal response to these things. It's a space where you can hear the reactions of other people. Granted, was there a screening of Foxy Brown where Pam Grier's character gets hurt by a man and the whole audience applauded? Probably. Like, it's not like these audiences were entirely innocent. But
No.
I do think there's something especially weird about Riot in Cell Block 99 or There Are No Saints, where people seek out a neo-exploitation film probably to watch at home or like with their buddies who all think exactly the same thing as them. There's something weird about enjoying one of these films by yourself. And I say this as a guy who used to work at the video store,
Right.
where a lot of these guys would come in alone to rent the boutique Blu-ray release of films like Rolling Thunder and like Cannibal Holocaust. I mean, that's a Mondo thing. That's its own thing. But
Yeah,
like,
I was going to say Faces of Death. Yeah.
Faces of Death,
yeah.
or
I Eat Your Skin. We have
Yes.
I Drink Your Blood.
I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah. Death Trap.
I Dismember Mama. That's a pretty funny name for a film.
Yeah,
But
some of them aren't bad.
yeah.
2000 Maniacs.
Yeah, exactly. Hell Comes to Frogtown type of stuff.
Yep.
And it's one of these things where it's like, this is also from before you could just look up a naked lady and you had to have kind of an excuse to see naked ladies. And it's like, at this point, if you're going to wade through all this shit about like the plot of the Women in Prison movie, like, you're a special kind of freak.
Right.
I don't know. Caged Heat, Chained Heat,
Yes, exactly.
things like this. I think those are both movies.
And here's the thing, I'm not a guy like a natural urges guy, but I do think part of the weirdness of this cinema and the
One of the problems that you're confronting in your life, I think.
it's not
enough natural urges.
That's right. But like going back to the aforementioned Grand Guignol stuff, or however the French theater is pronounced, where
Gran
it's like,
Turismo.
yeah, that's right. Where there are things like women's sexuality that are not being explored, and maybe this is an extremely messy way to explore it.
I mean, this is one of the reasons that Letterboxd added pornographic films to their site, because you basically cannot tell the history of queer cinema without including a lot of explicit pornography.
Exactly. Or the history of like interracial romance cinema, because some of it begins with 1930s pre-code stuff, but a lot of it is pornography or borderline pornography.
But also, that doesn't mean that you can call any pornography you want to watch an important step in the history of a marginalized cinema.
And also, you can make interracial romance movies now that don't have to be like this to get a crowd.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
We can finish off the rest of the movie. He hunts down the guys who had Julio. He tortures Neil McDonough in a scene that
It is pretty cool.
has some pretty cool nasty violence, and has just visually, I think,
there's a part where he pours boiling water on Neil McDonough's crotch, which I think should happen to lots of people in Minecraft. And then he also uses a corkscrew to remove Neil McDonough's fingernail, which then drops into the water from the boiling,
and the blood sort of filters
blossoms
out.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And
It's like
these
a
are the types of
clever
moments
idea.
where you're
Yeah.
like, oh, this is not even Schrader, but this is more interesting than
I was wondering
expected
if
to
that
find.
was in the script, because that seems like such a
It's possible.
cool
but I don't
image.
want to sell
Well,
them
no,
short.
it just seems like such the setup of first he's going to pour water on him, then he's going to remove his fingernail. Seems like, oh, this is designed for an interesting image.
It's true. And there is a bunch of Schrader stuff in the film. They keep quoting from the Bible, and he talks in Latin. And
But then, and this is one of the things that I wondered if this was involved in the changed ending and the script cut to shit.
Don't know.
Vincent says that he sold Julio Nieto, the boy from The Americans, to a guy that we keep hearing about called La Cara del Norte.
No, La Cara del Norte, I think, is the same.
Vincent?
Is Vincent.
He is Vincent.
Yeah.
No, who's this other? What's the other guy's name? Hellboy. Call him Hellboy?
Yeah.
It's Ron Perlman.
Yeah. The other guy's name is, oh, yes, of course, Sands.
Senor Sands.
Senor Sands.
Horatio.
And we get some information now that we found out he'd been sold. First of all, we get the absolutely disgusting exploitation film line that your son now has a belly full of leche and an asshole full of cream cheese.
Yeah, so he says that he
Which I'm
sold...
repeating to kind of to put you off the movie if you don't like that type of stuff.
Yeah. I don't like that type of stuff.
Yeah. So it's too late for you, though. I'm talking about the listener.
Yeah.
But we get a little bit about this guy now.
He says that he sold Neto's son into sex slavery, into a horrible sexual violence at the hands of this very nasty cartel man.
Well, he's not. Who is this guy exactly?
Well, but we think he's cartel man.
Right.
We
right,
don't
right.
know that yet. So
Yeah.
then we get
A double cross of the type that the film hasn't really earned like our interest in this. But Neto's talking to one of his old buddies who.
Bailarin.
That's right. Who gives him some
Which
information
is that Korean
about this
movie
guy.
you're talking about.
That's exactly right. Very good. He gives Neto some information about this guy, which you can relay in a second. But we also see Neto doesn't know. Some dramatic irony of he hangs up the phone and then calls Senor Sands to warn him.
Neto eventually arrives at the location of Senor Sands.
And who is this guy?
This guy is Ron Perlman.
Mm-hmm.
He is replacing Brian Cox, who apparently shot some of this.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yep.
Because especially in 2022, Brian Cox, the voice of McDonald's, the voice of Tekken,
Yep.
the
Huge.
voice of Succession,
Mm-hmm.
he would have been, yes, this would have been a bit of...
In 2014, when the film was finished,
Brian
and
Cox
shelved-
isn't that the guy from X-Men?
Right. That's right.
The Beast himself. So we get Ron Perlman is Senor Sands, who it turns out is a former ATF guy who the whole thing is extremely Colonel Kurtz. This is in a very cool house in another part of Mexico near Tampico that Ian
This is
recognized.
Yes, I recognize this house. This is a famous
Las
house.
Posas.
Yes, the whole like grounds are called Las Posas.
It's not really a house. It's like a sculpture garden that like a whacked out
This guy
British
named Edward
expat
James.
guy.
Yeah, this expat guy along with Leonora Carrington, who there's a group of famous like surrealist era people who came to Mexico and fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to recognize and humiliate myself in the lineage of the white people going to Mexico and
Mm-hmm.
being fascinated by it. So he talked about Mexico as a naturally surrealistic place and said that he wanted to capture that surrealism. So he built these strange concrete structures. Now, interestingly,
in the jungle, like very
in the Huasteca Potosina jungle, which is just a beautiful place in Mexico.
I will say that the materials and designs chosen by this man emerging from the jungle, they do suit the environment in a very interesting way. They seem to emerge from like it's not a contrast where you have like a gleaming marble mansion in the jungle, which is shitty. This is like eerie in that it almost looks ruined already. There a lot of the forms are from animals in the jungle.
And he had a bunch of exotic animals, which is not so great. But I do want to give credit to I under-recognized. This person was new to me. I'm among those people under-recognizing him. But I guess this Edward James had a Mexican Yaqui lover, friend turned lover.
And he was Yaqui in Spanish.
Exactly. But
right.
He is Plutarco Gastelum. I don't know. This is an unusual name.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. But they were together, and then Plutarco married a woman and had some kids who all called Edward Uncle Edward. And basically they worked together because Edward James was a 1940s to 1980s white guy who probably didn't speak much Spanish and needed help doing anything in Mexico.
Yep.
So people try to give credit to the designs to both of these men.
Yeah.
And these sculptures have names like the house on 3 floors, which will in fact have 5 or 4 or 6. The house with a roof like a whale. The staircase to heaven.
Yes. Just heard a firework outside.
Yep.
And so this is cool to see this. This is just like it's a cool looking place to shoot your movie.
Yep.
But obviously the Sands character has been driven nuts in part by the implication, and we don't get a lot of this out loud. It's been driven nuts in part by his experiences in the ATF and then also by the murder of his wife and son by none other than El Pinche Jesuito.
El Pinche Jesuito.
Our friend
The
San
flashbacks to killing this woman were flashbacks to killing Senor Sands' wife.
¿Qué?
Yeah, that's right. And son who looks a fair amount like Julio.
Yeah. And so now it's all actually been, we've been trying to figure out why this guy has been targeted, and it turns out it's revenge, it's an eye for an eye, it is an explanation of the slapped on Bible verse from the beginning of the film.
If you're feeling like, oh, was he being targeted? Was there a sense of some type of elaborate plan or a mystery? Mm-hmm. It wasn't really clear throughout the movie. Right. He just kept being attacked by guys.
Yes, exactly. And we also don't get any sense as to whether the boy has been abused in any way sexually.
My guess was that the reveal was that maybe that wasn't the intention. It's because this was not a sex thing. This is a revenge thing.
Yeah, my guess was that Neil McDonough was just trying to say the nastiest thing he could before what was obvious to him as his imminent death.
Yeah.
And he succeeded.
By the way, I can confirm that you guys both look really stupid with how you're using your microphones. Just to be clear.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. Thank you, unnamed famous podcast girlfriend.
That's right. Now, the film concludes with what I feel is, and I'm curious about your opinion, unearned dramatic grimness, which is that Ron Perlman is drowning Julio, and there's sort of a against the clock fight, John Wick fight, where Neto is battling all of his goons who are wearing...
He's been stabbed in the pec, but he's clearly still fighting.
Shot in the leg. The goons are wearing masks. It's kind of cool. I mean, this is the stuff that I would have liked to just have the whole movie be.
Yeah.
But he's fighting to get to his son. His son drowns.
His son is drowned. His son is lowered into a well on a rope from his feet, and they just leave him in there, and he says, obviously, it's too long. And then he pulls the son out and just, like, slowly... And this is the part that
he doesn't scream at the sky. He raises him up like inch by inch from the well. This is what it's sort of like. Wow, what?
This part feels like more like the Schrader.
Yeah, but
then bizarrely he doesn't die in a cathartic explosion of violence and get some kind of redemption in his death and the suffering of his flesh, which you would expect from Paul Schrader. He then goes...
Again, he's still being accompanied by the stripper waitress, Inez, yeah.
And so then they bury the son.
And unlike in Rolling Thunder, where this woman was like totally fucked over and then just basically tossed aside because the guy is acting out of selfish desire for violence and revenge, here there's kind of like
a stand by your man kind of...
Yeah.
Like she decides... You know what? I was scared of what I got dragged into, and now I'm in it to win it.
Yep.
So she continues on the journey. Life es un highway, and they I guess continue tracking down these cabrones who have fucked him over, and so we're promised at the end a continuing string of violent deaths of Mexican men, which is an interesting thing for a Latin exploitation film to promise.
Right, which is why, again, you sort of briefly called it an inverted Rolling Thunder, and I think we both agreed that it was semi-inverted because, again,
sort of an Immelman loop for all the roller coaster friends.
Wow.
Roller coaster heads out there.
I love this. I love this.
I think I got that right. I might be thinking about Top Hat.
Okay.
Top Hat maneuver.
All right.
Folks, write in, podcastingforme@gmail.com.
So I think we've covered it, but the problem with this film is not that it's an exploitation film, even though we are both suspect of the modern versions of those, the neo-exploitation. To me, it's a bigger failure because it doesn't quite know which elements of those are still interesting, still rich areas to explore. It has a couple good action sequences. Shout out to our guest from season 1, Jonah Jang, who is a connoisseur of the film with maybe not a ton else going on, but has a real appreciation
for the DTV action film, many of which are structured along similar bare bones revenge plot lines.
But I guess even those I somehow find... Well, I'll say this. I commented after we finished the film, which was so fun to watch together.
Yes. Oh, I also learned, this is another bit of Ian lore. I learned how he watches movies, which is insanely fucked up in two ways.
I knew I was going to get in trouble for this.
TV on the floor.
Yeah.
Against a large...
At least this is not like a CRT...
Not a Trinitron.
Like a 30-inch TV that I'm watching from 20 feet away.
No, this is a TCL widescreen.
Yeah, like QLED, whatever. Not
fine television.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got this at a Costco sale, but it's like a Costco TV.
Yeah, but the one that Wirecutter recommended.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
That's interesting because I looked at the picture quality. Come on. Hey, looks fine.
Yeah.
It had something called judder reduction on that we had to turn off to make the movie look normal. Anyway, the man is watching films on a TV on the floor.
In what probably anybody would say is a normal room.
No, it is completely unadorned, this room, and the walls are all wood paneling. Like, it's one of the locations from the film Prisoners.
But it has a normal
Villeneuve
vaulted
Prisoner.
ceiling like anybody would expect in a small church.
Yeah, it's some combination of people get killed in here and church basement, which sometimes
No
those
windows.
are the same place.
I should say no windows, 2 archway doors. I did want to point out that there's some crossover with Cry Macho, of course.
See, of course.
Not a white guy, but a guy being called back into action, going down to Mexico, to Pito specifically, and maybe having to get into nasty business.
Also, Jose Maria Yaspic is in the same seasons of Narcos Mexico with the Ecuadorian actress who plays the mother in Cry Macho. So they probably have scenes together.
Exactly right.
I will have to find out.
Yep.
But it's obviously Cry Macho, and also I have initiated Cry Macho protocol in coming down here to extract the boy.
You have initiated Cry Macho protocol.
I'm going to leave him here. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
The film doesn't do... It's not like it doesn't do anything well. I think it...
But I would be surprised if anyone listening to the show expected us to cover this.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know about this.
Yeah. Guess what? Most people who are Schrader completists probably have heard of this, but based on Letterboxd reviews and online reviews available, they also haven't watched the film.
I'm checking on some numbers really quick.
I will tell you that we haven't really talked about Pineda's other work. I watched, if you're still hanging around, I watched a movie called Dos Más Dos, which was a sort of Disney-fied remake of a Argentinian film, which is also a remake of Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, kind of, where there's 2 couples, one of them... Okay. How many we got? Can I guess? You're going to tell me how many views on Letterboxd?
I'm going to start with how many views on Letterboxd for the film Witch Hunt?
Okay. I'm going to say 1,800.
3,000.
Okay.
How many views would you say for There Are No Saints? You can say más o menos.
Menos.
¿Y cuántos?
Unos 800.
605.
Ooh.
So fewer people have watched this than Witch Hunt. Which is
a fifth as many have at least logged their viewing of this film.
To be fair, Witch Hunt is freely available on YouTube.
Sure.
However, it is not available in most of the places people watch movies.
Yeah, people are mostly looking for films on YouTube. It's not 2008. And not everybody's me as a 13-year-old.
Yeah, speaking of the way Ian is watching films, I wanted to finish my story. He tried to derail me, and I will not be derailed. He puts them onto a USB drive from his computer individually. Then he takes the USB drive over, plugs it into something in the back of the television, and then he looks it up in the TV's extremely shitty Android-based operating system. And apparently, using the USB to TV method destroys all the TV's picture settings every time.
It destroys different picture settings every time, which is cool. So I have to figure out what is messed up now.
So this was a weird way to watch the movie, but a lot of fun. Had a great time with my friend, Ian, and some of his cats.
That's right.
Mesquite, by far, my biggest friend.
That's true.
He's been spending a lot of time with me. He's been pushing his head into my glasses so hard I was worried they would break and hurt him.
But lovingly.
Yes. It's time for the sexual obsession check-in. And recently, Paul Schrader was talking about an upcoming project. Had this to say.
I've never written a script about sexual obsession. And so that's what I'm doing now.
And so here on the show, we are endeavoring to catalog which of the films he's written are not about sexual obsession. In this case, it's a big, and I'm going to do this in Spanish. No.
No, that's interesting. I would say this film is tapping into some of the same energy as a hardcore or a Rolling Thunder, which have sexual obsession elements, one more than the other. Well, obviously.
But Rolling Thunder, if you don't forget, he has his wife's new boyfriend do some shibari style.
Didn't forget
shibari style erotic rope torture to him.
He does, yeah. But I think the film is sexually exploitative, and I think that's
and it ends with there's violence in a brothel at the end.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, in this film, it's also sexually exploitative, though.
Oh, sure. Well, this is the leche thing.
There's that, too. Yeah, disgusting. So I don't think there's zero unhealthy relationship with sexuality in the film. It's not even like the basis of the film. It's just part of the color. I don't know. Part of the fabric.
Yeah, it's not. The film is not about a man whose obsession is sexual.
In fact, he's too cool. One of the things that
he's John Wick style chaste.
The reason we know he's cool is he orders a black coffee in the strip club, and he's mostly just looking at the dressed waitress.
This part was cool though, because he orders the black coffee. She says there's a 2-drink minimum. He says, I guess I'll have 2 then. So he actually orders 2 black coffees at a strip club, which is extremely cool.
I think it was cool too. And then there's a cool fight in the strip club bathroom. And if I could just have the movie be that, I think I would have liked it at least a little bit more.
Here's something emblematic of the film. There's a neon sign behind the bar at the nativist strip club that says something to the effect of, here we only speak English. Yeah. But because of the nature of the production of this film, they, I guess, were not able to make the word English legible on screen in the shot with the actors' faces. So it says, here we speak, and then I guess a bar of white light.
Right.
Yeah, so.
And there's all these references to the white versus Mexican interaction. There's Tommy Flanagan, the Scottish actor, playing an Irishman who has one of Sam Houston's guns.
Yeah.
Is there anything to make of this?
Yeah, actually. I've read something interesting. So It turns out that Tommy Flanagan, they don't have any scenes together, but Tommy Flanagan and Ron Perlman were both on the television show Sons of Anthony.
Of course. That's right.
So that's something. That's another, much like exploitation.
Hey, weren't they the Mayans also? Mayan entertainment. That's a type of Mayan entertainment.
That's the spin-off.
Damn it.
TV guy fails.
Yeah.
Like the neo-exploitation stuff, anybody who's a fan of Sons of Anarchy immediately suspicious to me. You cannot be watching that show without me.
Unless you're
Look, it doesn't
17.
mean you're bad.
Right.
But I am going to look into
further investigation. Yep. All right,
that's been our episode on There Are No Saints. We need to feed our wives. They're so mad at us. Remember to subscribe, rate us, write a review. Helps us on the algorithm. If you like the show, tell a friend. Tell your dad. Tell el pinche Jesuito. It's the last thing you'll ever tell him. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, Podcasty Forum. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or you're interested in co-hosting a 2-person Pulse Schrader podcast, you can email us at podcastyforme@gmail.com. Thank you to Jeremy Allison for our artwork. If you missed any of that, go to podcastyforme.com. Everything will be explained there. The Patreon, the poop game. It's all online, baby. One of my favorite things in the whole world, a website.
That's right, yeah.
And for El Hijo Apestoso, my name is Jake Serwin, signing off here in Oaxaca de Juarez, Mexico. Calle.
Bye.